She's so fabulous.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I'm Julie. I'm an alcoholic. Juli! I want to thank Jan for asking me to speak. She was there earlier. Thank you, Jan. And welcome to the newcomers. Happy birthday to the birthday people. That's amazing. I love to hear all that time, and I like to hear this meeting so spread out. And so many people than the last time when I was the 10-minute speaker. Hi, Danny. I was really nervous. I do not do this on purpose. I do not ask to do this. And I probably haven't told my whole story in over 10 or 15 years. Because when I'm asked, I will. So I just am not in those situations often. But here I am, so there must be a reason. I wrote some notes so that I don't practice one of my character defects, which is I don't like silence. So I nervously ramble and go off on tangents. I'm going to try not to do that. That's my goal for tonight. And while I let the newcomer know, and the people newer than me, and anybody who's having a tough time with more time than me, that there's a reason to keep coming back and that this works, because that's what I heard when I got here. And it's kind of a trip, because when you stay sober a really long time, and I got sober when I was 19 this last time, and I stayed sober, and I'm like dealing with menopause, so that gives you an idea of how far the ladies will know how I'm in my later 50s, and I've pretty much been here most of my life, and I didn't drink that long, and it's easy to forget how bad it was sometimes, and why exactly I was willing to get to a point where I would do anything to stay sober, and why I still go to a lot of meetings. People ask me all the time who don't understand the program, you have 38 years and you still go to those meetings? Yeah. They're like, what, once a year, once a month? I'm like, no. A couple times a week, or I get cuckoo and I start blowing up my life. I really do, and I wish that wasn't the truth, because I don't want to think I have to do that, but also I get to do that, because there is no medication that I know of and no other program that could have fixed what was wrong with me and kept me from essentially winding up where they say we go, jails, institution, or death. And I got to do 2 of those a couple times, several times for the institutions, and I didn't die, but I was pretty damn close for a person who was trying so young. That's just my story. It doesn't need to be yours, but when I got sober, I remember a big thing. I started to get introduced to the program like at the end of my 16 years old year, right? And that sounds insane, and I wasn't the only one. There were a few. It was in the Valley. I grew up in Woodland Hills, and one of my dad's friends said, I think your daughter's really strung out, to my dad. And my dad was like, yeah, she parties too much. She's a little wild. And this guy got sober. His name was Pat. He passed away recently, and he has stayed sober since then. And he lived a long, amazing life. Pat took me to an NA meeting, and I didn't go for me. I went because my parents were now on my back and for other people, and that was one of my first meetings that I remember, was that NA meeting. And I just remember thinking, all these people who look like bikers and like, I don't know what else, are telling me that they stay sober. There wasn't anybody more than 7 years in that particular meeting, but for me, that was forever. And I was like, and they're happy, and they're laughing, and they're not like me, who felt like I was about to lose my best friend, right? Like, I was like, this is gonna suck if this is my solution. And I went in the bathroom, and I was like, it just made me want to get high worse. They were talking about different drugs, and I was like, I haven't tried those. I need to go try those. And I did. I went out and tried them. I'm not saying they caused it. I'm saying that's where my head was. So then, years later, I got to AA. Not years, but within it, probably 1 year. I was 17, and I was getting in more trouble. And I went to a couple AA meetings, and my dad, who was a drug dealer, by the way, so that is weird, gave me an AA book, a big book, and said, he's from Brooklyn, he's like, you need to do this program. You need to do it now. I'm not putting up with this anymore, and just like plumped it. And I was like, what? Like, are you freaking kidding me? Me? Like, my mother was a drunk and an addict and mentally ill. My father was, I would say, just keeping on this side of, like, not being functional. But he always said, I am a functional alcoholic, you are not. And I was like, I believed him. I was like, okay, and we didn't have the internet. I had a encyclopedia set with some numbers missing, like some letters missing. Yeah, and I was like, what's functional alcoholic? How do I function? And I went to AA, and I started hearing about functional alcoholism and not functional. And I was 100% not functional. And so there was no, like, question in my mind about that. I started drinking and using young. My mom told me to have some weed and later have some alcohol and even a Valium because I was too wound up. I was too intense. I was driving her crazy, and I did. And that was probably 11, 12 years old. And I know. And a lot of her friends, I didn't like it at first. I took some weed, and her friends were like laughing at me. And my house was the party house for parents. And I had a younger brother and sister, but I was like, maybe it'll work. And I smoked some weed, and I tried the pill, and I drank, and I was like, they were laughing at me. They thought whatever I was doing or saying was hysterical. And I was like, screw that. I'm not doing that again. They're laughing at me. And I had a very adversary relationship with my mom. She had me early. Her and my dad moved out here from, she lived in the Bronx, he lived in Brooklyn, to North Hollywood because he was busted again. And it was a big case, and the judge told him something like, you can go to Vietnam and come back in a body bag, or you can do some kind of reserve and you need to leave the state of New York. And so he had some days to figure that out. And they went, and my mom was pregnant, and she actually thought they had taken care of it, but they hadn't. Yeah, so 6 months later, she's like premature birth because she's drinking, she's smoking, she's like thinks that it wasn't going to happen. And my dad told me this later, but they didn't keep anything a secret in my family. So it was like me trying to take care of myself, my little brother and sister, and my mom and dad, like, my dad would be like, I'm only staying because we had Juli, so I don't know why I'm even here. And my mom was like, just hated me because he would say, you keep an eye on her. Don't let her kill herself. Don't let her burn down the house. Like, you're in charge. And I'm like, I'm in charge of these two. Like, how many can I take care of? But I took it on. And I never felt enough. And I don't know why. Like, I have been working on that in therapy for some years now. But I was able to get sober anyway because she didn't cause my alcoholism. My dad didn't cause my alcoholism. And I used a lot of drugs. And there's no way, which the people in AA hated at the time, but there's no way that I'm getting sober at 19 and trying at 17 and then staying sober for good without having outside issues. There's just no way. Alcohol, if that can do that to you, tell me, because I've never seen it in all these years on the program. And I worked in recovery for years. I've never seen it, but so the people, not all the people. A lot of the people were cool, but I heard the ones who were like, how much could you have drank? I spilt more than you drank in a year. And like, they would say, you cannot mention drugs and alcohol in an AA meeting. Please go find one of those other A's. And I was a person who really, though I was a complete fuck up with my alcohol and my using, I wanted to do everything perfect. I really did. So luckily there was enough people saying, no, stay, screw him. And enough of us, not many, not like this, but enough people under 30 that were like, you don't need to go anywhere. He's an old crotchety. They talk about them in the big book, the bleeding deacons. that is what they believed, and God bless them. They were trying to keep AA pure, but it hasn't turned out that way as we look at all these beautiful young people and older people. It's not everybody's story. So I am super grateful that there were people willing to tell me that. If you're new and you're here or you're coming back, doesn't matter what you use. In my opinion, it's the ism. If you relate to the book and you relate to the disease and you can work those steps, then you can find your solution here. This program can be your solution. There's some like stuff you have to do though. That's the hard part. Yeah, they're gonna tell you. And you know what? Relatively speaking, it's so much easier than trying to stay out there for 2 years was for me. That was absolute hell. That literally brought me to a place where I wanted to die. And I said to God, please show me how to stay sober. It was right there, but I couldn't see it because it wasn't an option for me, because I could stay sober for a while, or I could drink sometimes, but then I'd do other things, or I could do I tried all that. It says it right in the book. We're going to try to manage and control, and our hats are off to you if you can do it. I could not do it, even with an endless supply over there and whatever I tried. So when I finally got to a women's recovery house, the first time, called Vesper House in North Hollywood, I'd been in 3 programs prior where they mentioned NA and they mentioned the books, but they did not take us to meetings. For whatever reason, those things were just about happening in the mid to late 1980s. I got sober October 4th, 1986. So September 30th was a very bad day for me, the day that Jennifer finally got sober this time. But then I got married on that day, so I'm not sure what to think about that, like years later, in sobriety. Stayed married a long time, but October 4th was after I came out of detox. I know I'm jumping around. I'll get to sobriety, I promise. So I'll come back to Vesper House. I just want to say that not all of my drinking and using, because I've heard myself speak, was terrible. Some of it was really fun, and it was, until that point, the best time of my life, which is part of why it was so hard for me to give up. I found a group of friends who drank and used pretty much like I did. Hollywood, there was a punk rock scene in Hollywood that I really liked, and it was like new and it was exciting, and some of my friends that were in bands back then are like famous now, or like making a documentary. So just last week, all this stuff was brought up because they came to like have me as a part of it, and I'm like, you don't want me. And he's like, Julie, you were a huge part of this. And then he said, you and so were like the Sid and Nancy of LA. And there's like a long silence, and me like, blah, 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 what? Like, oh my God. And honestly, I was thinking I might have been the Nancy, but he was like the better one. I thought he was helping me stay in line. And I really did. Like, I was like, the guy's over, he can drive. He's old enough to buy alcohol and beer legally, and like he's in a band that tours in Hollywood. Like, what else could I do? I made it, you know? And I was like, there's nothing more. Like, my parents, all of a sudden my house became great for me because I could take as much Coke as I wanted as long as it wasn't too blatant. They would blame each other, or my dad would blame his new girlfriend, and I was like, getting that. There was always alcohol around her. I could have, my boyfriend would buy it. He tried to kind of limit it, but I was having none of that. And I did all that, but I was the one who would always, and he reminded me of that in the documentary, whatever, his clips or whatever. Remember that it was always you who started the fights? And I'm like, yeah, with girls. He goes, but all of us got in the fight, Julie. Like, all of the guys got in a fight because you started a fight. And I'm like, there was a reason. I'm sure there was a reason. It wasn't a good reason. I'm positive it wasn't a good reason, but that I was kind of like my mom in that I would just flip with a certain amount of alcohol. And that's where the drugs came in, because I was trying to do that just right chemistry experiment where I was mellow enough that I could have fun, feel that feeling I once had, right? In the very beginning, maybe for like a month, I don't remember, but it was fleeting. Then I was chasing it. And part of the problem was my dad kept dealing bigger and bigger quantities of cocaine, and I kept having access to that. So I was like, God, if you were me, you would use too. Like, come on. But my sister and brother weren't doing that. My sister did some at the very end, but they were not irritable, restless, discontent, negative, filled with fear, controlling, like always feeling like I had to control everything because there was literally no adults on board. And that's like, I did kind of, but I don't now, and I didn't have to for the past 38 years. I needed to be my own adult, right? But these are like part of 6 and 7 are character defects that we get to learn about in AA. If you stay sober long enough, first part is just stay sober, right? And that is get a sponsor, show up to a lot of meetings. I went to 3 or 4 a day for the first 6 months to a year when I first finally stayed sober. And before that, I did not go to as many, but I would try to hit one every day, even if I didn't stay sober, because they told me, just show up anyway, because I could not drive home. I could make like 4 days, and then I could not drive home without stopping at the liquor store and like drinking it on my way wherever I was calling home then, and sometimes even my grandma's, and I did not want to drink or let her down. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, she smells the alcohol on me, my poor grandma. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I'm trying to stop at a gas station and wipe the smell off me and the cigarettes. And yeah, I was struggling with my conscience. What I had left of it was soon to be gone because I started doing harder and harder drugs. The boyfriend broke up with me because I was too crazy. And he was my first boyfriend. And the guys who I told, they didn't know that, I guess. I'm like, dude, I was 15 when I met you. So yeah, first boyfriend. And they all got silent. And I'm like, don't worry, it's okay. It's past, right? Yeah, and it's exactly, I planned that. It's not like he came looking for me. I think I planned it, who knows? But yeah. Let's say I enjoyed the parties where my parents would leave. My dad started doing his business out of a bar in the 80s called the Central that was on Sunset. And across the street was the Whiskey, and they had the best punk rock shows. And then the Rainbow up the street had like Guns N' Roses and all the rock and roll, and I was like, I liked it. I could sneak out as long as I got home before they got home, which was usually when it was light, I was good, right? And then if something closed down early, me and my sister would bring the whole gang back to my house. And my parents didn't care. My mom didn't know most of the time, and my dad would just say the craziest stuff, like, don't flush the toilet too much, it's too expensive, and don't mess up my house, and nobody vomit. If you're gonna drink, don't drink that much. And we were like, okay, sure. And they're like, wow. Right, so you can imagine, like, my house became the party house when we didn't even want to party, and we had cops there a lot, and my drug use got to the point where they were partying and I was in my closet doing drugs because I was so paranoid and so flipped out of my mind by that time that it was just too crazy. And my dad was realizing that it was before he went to the tough love meetings and gave me the big book. So this is near my end. And it got super bad, and I just feel like that 2 years where I kept going in and out between 17 and 19 and a half was forever, because I would get like 2 days go out, 11 days go out. I made 30 once, and I would go into a rehab and get loaded the same freaking day that I got out. The most I had put together was 96 in the Vesper House because I had all these alcoholic women, and I was the youngest one. They had to take a vote of the board to let me in when I was 18, right before this last getting sober, and they did. And the lady met my dad. He came over and with his girlfriend who was my age and pulled out his roll and gave her cash, and he's like, I'm paying you for a week at a time because she might leave and I'm not going to be stiff to my money. And I was like, okay, as long as like I was in, I didn't care, but they all knew. All the girls would get all dressed up. The ones lower than their 40s would get dressed up for when my dad came to pay the rent. And he knew it too. And I was like, all right, I can stay sober. It doesn't matter what he's doing, as the ladies told me. But I mean, I'm grateful that he paid for it. And I'm grateful that he kept trying with me. And I'm grateful that he got to the point where he somehow got to a tough love meeting and failed to tell them he was a drug dealer, obviously. Not that that would matter, but they might tell him that's not helping, I think. Yeah. So he's there. My mom had already put me in a mental house twice, like out of spite, before my drinking and using was an issue. They didn't even ask me if I had an issue because I was in there for months and didn't drink or use anything. And they're like, they didn't think it. So I didn't know. So I'm like, my mother's a nightmare. Of course I'm in a mental hospital. She should be in here. And that's what I thought we were doing that night, was taking her to the mental hospital, by the way. And the second time I was blindsided. And my dad said, I don't think you need this, but your mother's not going to give me any peace. So the second time I go, okay, you're not going to see me for a while. And as soon as I could, it was about 30 days when they let you like go on pass, I ran away from the Sherman Oaks Galleria, and I was gone. I didn't come back for almost a year that time until I called my dad and said, hi, how's it going? And he's like, come home. I go, no way, I'm tired of getting locked up. No. And my mom had said, you're going to juvie the next time. And I didn't know if that was legal or not, but I wasn't taking a chance. And he goes, no, she's gone. She's been gone for months. She's not coming back this time. I got her own place. So I was like, cool. I went home, but what happened was my disease had really progressed by then, more. And because that's what this disease does. If you haven't hit those bottoms, especially if you're young or if you just started drinking late, like Shannon, who I met in the bathroom, you'll hit them. You'll hit them. I'm watching and my sponsee hit some of them now. Like, I've never been 5150 before. Guess what? Now she has. And I told her. I've never been, I'm like, the next are like DUIs, hurting somebody, getting killed. Like, it's nothing fun for you. And I hope now she's sober today. I hope she's seen enough and heard enough from us that she can get to the point where she's willing to go to any lengths to stay sober. Because if you're an alcoholic and an addict like I was, it's not easy. It's not easy to just come in here and say, okay, I'm not going to use. I used to stand up at my home group, North Hollywood in Radford, at a podium like this, up on a stage, and say, I don't understand. If you people can just get up and not drink, why do you have to come to these stupid meetings so much? Like, I don't get it. How? Tell me how. And nobody could tell me how. They would say, keep coming back. It happens by osmosis, which I had no idea what that meant, right? And if you don't know what that means, ask your sponsor. They'll tell you, or ask somebody. It kind of means when you show up, you're going to catch it, basically. You're going to catch alcoholism, and you're going to one day be able to find a power greater than yourself who can stop you from taking that drink, which is basically where I got. I was finally willing, after many tries, to get on my knees and ask God with a third step prayer. I was reading off a card in the bathroom at that recovery house. I asked God to take away my obsession. I had some time, and I didn't want to blow it again, and I didn't want to wind up on the street, and I didn't want to start that all over, and I didn't want to get to the place where I wanted to die again. And I asked him, and before that, it was my sponsor's idea. I didn't come up with it. So before that, I had just done it. I would let my head carry me out, and I would do it, right? Instead of what they said, call somebody. Well, I called her. Now, when you call them, take their direction. She told me to get on my knees. She said, if you weren't in the house, I would tell you to get to a meeting right now or call your sponsor. But you're on the phone with me, and you guys have chores to do and make dinner. She's like, just do that. And if you're still feeling sketchy, call me back or tell somebody at the house, like a woman who had more time than me or a house mother. And I did that. And I didn't need to do much past that prayer because we ate dinner. It was great. I got distracted. All the things that were so messed up that day disappeared, didn't matter anymore. And I woke up the next day sober. And I was like, wow, that worked. Like, God worked for me. This freaking works, right? It helps for me that I'm a lot of days away from it, too. So I'm a little scared to play with that, because I did go out after that, and that was my very last drunk and fiesta with drugs. And that was, again, I'm at grandma's, which was the bottom for me, because I did not want to disappoint her. I didn't really care about my parents. I wanted my mom to feel the pain, so I wanted her to know I was a mess and it's her fault. Like, I was kind of a messed up kid, but I was like, don't want to let my grandma down, and I really want to stay sober at this point, because I've seen you guys. I've caught the disease of recovery. I see the sparkle in your eyes, and I believe most of you that you're sober. I'm like, and I believe most of these ladies from my ladies group that they used like I did. And I'm like, oh my God, I need this. Why don't I want this? Why don't I stop using? I had no idea, but in the book it tells us, it gives us those answers, right? Because we get to a pitiful and incomprehensible state of demoralization because we're different than our fellows, right? We have a biochemical and a physical allergy coupled with an obsession of the mind. Even today, if I start thinking about, wouldn't it be nice? I've been sober so long. One of those guys was sober 12 years and he's not anymore. And I want to ask him when he gets here, how is it? Is it better? I mean, like you were as bad as I was. Is it better not kind of drinking sometimes? Because 3 years ago, that's what he told me he was doing during the pandemic. I saw him and I took one look and I hugged him and I'm like, oh no, we're not going there. Like, again, the dead eyes and the remorse and he's like, I'm doing okay. Like, like it's a deadly disease. It's progressive, it's deadly, and I'm so grateful that it didn't kill me, and that's why I do the hard stuff here, even when I usually don't want to. My bottom was, I was at my grandma's, I had 11 days, my dad said, go to my house, my mom's gone, as far as I know, go to my house and watch your brother, and he was going to Hawaii. So I go over there, they do have a housekeeper, but he needed me to drive my brother to school and back. Figures I'm 10 days sober, why not, right? So there wasn't a high bar in my house at all. So I went over there. My brother says within a couple hours, what's this? I want to show you something. Shows me a suitcase with like 5 kilos of cocaine and some mannitol and a scale and some other things. And I was like, nothing, let's just put it back, right? Long story short, took one and I had a plan. And I was like, my plan, thank you, God, my plan is coming to fruition. If I had enough money, enough drugs, my own apartment, my own car, I wouldn't have to get sober, because I don't like being sober. It sucks. It makes me anxious to be sober, and it makes me depressed, and nobody understands that. So that was my plan, and needless to say, a week later, I wound up in an hour hotel downtown LA with all my good friends, right? And we did all those drugs for a week. We drank, we did everything we could get a hold of. I did not sell one bit of that kilo. They were using it. There was only still like most of it left, and they all were leaving. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why? And they're like, yeah, you're gonna die. We're not gonna be here. And I'm sure their pockets were filled with as much as they could without me seeing, which probably was a lot, but they left. And I was there alone for maybe 4 hours by myself, and I had been overdosing myself, and they had been trying to wake me up, and that was part of why they left probably. But I went in the mirror, and I was crazy, and I thought God spoke to me. I think he did, actually. And I was pulling the bugs out of my skin that I think might have not really been there now, but I felt they were, and I had the scars when I went in treatment. And he said, here's your plan. Hello, the best you're going to do is die. Doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much drugs, doesn't matter who you live with and if they let you do what you want. If you were 21 and could do all this, you would still die, and you're going to die soon. You need to go back to AA and ask them to help you. And I really sat there spinning, for a good hour, I think. It's blurry, but I got back in that car. I hate to say I drove like that from downtown LA to Woodland Hills to my dad's house, and had my plan. I'm going to drop off the kilo, and I'm going to go back to AA and see if these people can help me, which was North Hollywood. And I had called a few of them, but that's as far as I got. My mom was there, and my mom's like, you can't be here. And I'm like, no, you don't live here, and I can be here because I'm sober now. And then I realized like how I looked, and I was like, and I said, okay, I need the insurance card. I need to go to rehab. Really, I need you to help me. And she goes, no, just go home. Your father said no more insurance card for you. And I said, no surprise. So I started to get irritated, and I walked away, and I heard God again. I swear to God, I heard it. I wasn't coming up with these ideas. I said, Mom, I will trade you the insurance card for a lot of cocaine. Silence. How much cocaine? I'm like, a lot of cocaine, I promise you. And she's like, get it. And I said, get the insurance card. So we played that. She wound up getting me to treatment, and I gave that to my sister to hide from her until I was in treatment. And I traded the whole rest of that kilo to my mother to get into treatment the last time. And that's part of why I stay sober too, because I'm not going to have that again to barter with. Like, I don't know if there's the real reason is I don't know if there's another time for me. And that was scary. And I knew that I wanted to die. I knew that if I couldn't get sober, I was done. Like, I had so many experiences where I go straight to the bottom. I cannot control or manage or even enjoy my drinking and using anymore. I can't. And I'm thoroughly convinced. And please God, let me stay thoroughly convinced. I don't think I will if I don't stay here and listen to you guys. How am I on time? Okay, thank you. I want to get sober. I did get sober. Sorry, I didn't leave a lot of time. I did get sober. It's a weird series of events, but I wound up, I got in there, and I wound up going through treatment, and everybody said I was the 2%, that there was 2% of you guys that are going to make it, and I was not, because I was too young. And some of the people knew me that worked there from the meetings, right? They hired alcoholics and addicts, and they're like, you can if you want to be. And I'm like that. I'm like, fuck you guys. I can't make it. Watch me, right? And I think it was me and one of the nurses that made it. He had like 10 months when I went in, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so sad that the other people didn't make it because there was 30 of us, but I'm so grateful. And there was one other tech guy that I still see in meetings. The nurse got drunk after a while, but he put some time together. When I first got sober, my first speaker meeting at Radford that I can remember was Dr. Paul from the Big Book. He used to be called Dr. Alcoholic Addict, and it was on 449. And that was profound for me, not what he said about acceptance. That was cool, but I've heard that here before, and I had then. It was because here's this guy who's a doctor. He's in charge of the meeting because he's speaking. It's a huge meeting where everybody looks successful and sober, and he's using drugs, and he's talking about it openly. After that, I was like, I wrote it in my journal. I can go to those meetings now. It doesn't matter. Listen to that doctor dude. Like, he did it, and I stayed. I never worried about it again, and if I did, I read the book. So put that out of your mind. See if one of the other A's is good for you. But in my experience, I've gone to those, and I still do when I want to. But this is where I found the steps. This is where I found the love that I needed, and not tough love. More like Al-Anon love, if you know what that is. There's another program we get to go to work on our relationships after this one. But the steps have the solution, right? But first you have to show up, suit up, show up at meetings, stay sober. If you're in a treatment facility, I urge you to start meeting people now, start calling them so that when you get out, you can take direction from them, hopefully, and go right into our community. If you don't live here, there's a tribe where you are. I've moved a few times. I have a community pretty fast. When I moved back to South Bay after never living here, And living in North Hollywood and living in San Francisco, my brother was like, how do you have all these guys helping you move? And I'm like, he's like, who gave you that bed? Who's doing this? And I'm like, AA, my AA friends. And he was like, you've been here 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. We got each other's back for the most part. And especially when you're new, we will do anything to help you. Well, within reason. You can't, yeah, I'm going to say too, you cannot trust everybody in AA. So be careful. Find your tribe of people you know are legit, and be careful of the outliers that you don't see or you see once in a while. Yeah, so if you're new, the steps are really where the answer is. The first step for me was knowing that I'm powerless and that it's not going to work for me anymore. If you don't know that, I don't know how you can stay here, but I'm not going to say you can't. Step 1, 2, and 3, okay, let's try AA. Let's try God in AA, and you don't need a God for this, but you need AA now. AA will help you find what will work for you in a way of connecting to a higher power. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be any religion, but it has to be something that will work for you. I wrote down some notes so I don't forget everything. I don't know what it's like now. I became employable. I didn't even finish the 10th grade before I got sober. I went to college. I have 3 degrees. I started a private practice when I was, I don't know, it's been 28 years running my private practice. I'm a nutritionist. I worked in recovery and mental health for a little while. And then I realized that what we eat is really important. So I've been married for 25 years. I have a daughter who's grown and on her own, and she has no drug and alcohol problems yet. And she's 24 now. So Danny knows, he's seen her. A lot of people here have seen Emma Jan, and Andy's been here forever, and I see Bunny back there, like so many people. And we have a tribe, like here's Katie and Joe and Tina and the ladies who Tina sponsors. Jennifer sponsors Tina, and my sponsor is Diane. She spoke here maybe November, and I was the 10-minute. And I was thinking, I'm never going to be the full speaker. She talked about steps the entire time. I tried. I did my best. I'm still active. I have a strong meeting and a strong fellowship, and I show up, and I'm afraid not to. That's the truth. I know I get miserable, and I will start blowing up my life. You can go through anything. My daughter got sick. I got sick. I've lost jobs. I've started projects. They've failed. There's just been so many things. I went through a divorce early on with my counselor from the rehab. and then I'm going through a transition with my husband now. And you know what? I love him dearly, but I cannot put anyone else's sobriety ahead of my needs or my feelings. And if he feels like he's going to drink, that is all you have to say. Please stay sober, right? Nothing's worth that, you guys, not a relationship. Nothing that we think we need is more important than our program and our connection to our higher power. And please have a sponsor. I don't know how I would do it without always having a sponsor, but I know a lot of you are able to do that. I really needed her lately in November. I was blindsided, so I'm okay now, and I know it's for the best, right? But it's not easy. It's hard to support somebody else through that too, right? I'm not gonna cry. I cry over everything, so I cried the whole time last time, I think. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm just so grateful for what AA's given me. I hope you could get a glimpse of where it came from and what it was like. And now that I'm sober, all the answers are here. This is it. This is my primary purpose. I've sought outside help a lot when I need it. But this is what I have to say is no matter what, I don't drink. My dad died. He was 32 years sober. He went to prison for 20 years. And because he went to a program, when he was on bail, he got sober. And he did 5 years. And he stayed sober. I don't know where that happens other than here. Right here. I'm still not over his passing, But I'm so grateful we got to have a relationship. My sister is sober all this time, 3 months behind me. I didn't really give her a choice, but she didn't mind. And she is, I'm the bossy one for sure, still in the family. My mom is even sober, believe it or not, and happy. And we just celebrated her 80th birthday, and we have a relationship. And it's just amazing. It's a miracle. She was talking to me about her connection to God the other day. And it's like, thank you, God. I could have missed it all. I could have missed it all because I couldn't see past my own head. I'm super grateful. If you're new, keep coming back. Not everybody bawls like this. I am happy, I promise you. I'm super grateful. And thank you for letting me share.